Now, here's 5-Star Wrestling Podcast Eddie Valiant with Eddie Valiant's Hot Take.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's edition of Eddie's Hot Take. I am your host, Eddie Valiant, and this week we've got some things to talk about. But first, before I get into anything, there's something I have to get off my chest, and that is a correction of something that happened a couple weeks ago. Not episode 13, but episode 12 of 5-Star Wrestling Podcast. Juicy Josh mentioned on the show that it was Sonny Ono as the leader of Kaientai who passed away. In correction, it was Wally Yamaguchi who was the leader of Kaientai who had passed away earlier this year. That is hot take number one right there for you. I hope you guys are all listening to 5-Star Wrestling Podcast. You can find the podcast at the number 5_star podcast. That's right, Juicy Josh listening out there. It is the number 5_star podcast. That's on Twitter. You can also find us on Facebook at 5-Star Wrestling Podcast. Spell it out, 5-Star Wrestling Podcast. That is also the Instagram handle. And coming soon, we're going to have a WordPress site where you'll be able to find all of the episodes of 5-Star Wrestling Podcast, and we'll post some cool stuff. If we got some pics that we want to show you, because obviously we don't do a video podcast, we do an audio podcast, so we'll have some cool stuff on there, and that is coming soon. So again, stay tuned for more 5-Star Wrestling Podcast, episode 14, coming next week. But right now, I want to get into another hot take here. And I want to talk about Luke Harper because it's kind of pissing me off. I think Luke Harper, besides Bray Wyatt, is one of the most talented members of the Wyatt family that there ever was. I had mentioned it on the show plenty of times that he's had some great matches, like the one with Dolph Ziggler at TLC 2014, and then the WrestleMania 31 7-man ladder match that he was a part of that saw Daniel Bryan win. But why in the world is Vince McMahon not using Luke Harper? I mean, he's using Eric Rowan, and granted, Rowan's role is a little limited, and we haven't seen Rowan since Daniel Bryan's been out, so that is a sign right there. But if you missed his match with Donovan Dijakovic at When Worlds Collide, then you missed one hell of a match, because it was one of my favorites out of all of them. That was a action-packed match from beginning to end. But again, he's not being used. And I can't, for the life of me, figure out why in the world is Luke Harper not being used. Well, let me ask you something, Vince. If you're not going to use Luke Harper, then please release the guy from his contract and let another company that has the brains to use him, use him. It's just sad when you realize that the reason he's not being used is because Vince McMahon doesn't get him. Why can't he do a southern accent? That is the reason he's not being used. I've heard of better reasons to not use a wrestler. Maybe he's an asshole in the back. Okay? Maybe there's just too much damn heat, and that's why he's never a champion. But because he can't do a southern accent, you're not going to put him on television? Come on, Vince. Come on. It just boggles my mind to think that, this is the reason why we don't get Luke Harper anymore. And, it just sucks. That's all I can say at this very moment, is that it sucks. I hope nothing but the best for Luke Harper, and I hope this situation's resolved, because it's just sad, and I would love to see something good come out of all of this. The thing I want to talk about right now is something that I didn't get to discuss on the show because I forgot to ask it. And to be honest, rookie mistake on my part. I left the questions at my house. I thought I had brought them with me. I was so unprepared when we were doing the show live at the time. but I'm going to address it now, and it's something that kind of drives me crazy, and it has to do with the upcoming Money in the Bank pay-per-view that is going to be happening. One of the things I used to look forward to every year when they did the Money in the Bank qualifying. Now, qualifying. Did you hear that word? Qualifying. Because you got to see some unique matches that maybe set up storylines moving forward. Come on, WWE, think forward. This year, instead of doing that, the WWE decided that they would just name their 7 or 8 participants, whatever the heck the number is, and they would call it a day. They did it for both the men and the women, and unfortunately, I do not like it. Although I'm happy with who's in the match, I just would have loved to have seen some qualifying matches where these guys maybe faced other guys. Like we could have seen maybe Aleister Black lose to somebody, which could have maybe set up a future feud somewhere down the line. They always did it this way. I don't know why they changed it. They definitely didn't have time constraints because Money in the Bank is what? That's right. It's May 19th, and they announced who was in the match on April 29th. There was plenty of time to set up some qualifying matches and some future rivalries. That right there, I think the WWE dropped the ball. I would have loved to have heard what Juicy Josh and the Afterman would have thought about that as well. But, that's my take, and that's just how I feel. I just think, qualifying matches makes it interesting. It maybe sets up second chances for guys to get in there. We've seen that done in the past. Whatever, man. It's probably going to be a great pay-per-view. Those are going to be probably some of the best ladder matches that we've seen. We can only hope for the best as far as those are concerned. I want to just take a small portion of a time to look at Impact Wrestling. Now, I was trying to watch Impact Wrestling the other day, and I got a little frustrated, I'm not going to lie, when I saw Eddie Edwards come to the ring. Now, I get they're doing this angle where, because of the baseball bat to the face from Sami Callihan, a few marbles got knocked a little loose, and Eddie Edwards hasn't been the same ever since. It just frustrates me that he's Impact Wrestling's version of Dean Ambrose. I mean, look at it. He wears jeans, sneakers, leather jacket to the ring, and his hair just looks messy, whatever. Yeah, I get it. Wrestling has been doing it for a long time. WCW did it back and forth with the WWE back in the day. Obviously, Lex Luger was supposed to be WWE's version of Hulk Hogan. That didn't pan out. Just like Eddie Edwards being their version of Dean Ambrose will never pan out. That is my opinion. That is my take. And I'm taking that to the grave. The last thing I'm going to touch upon here is there's a great documentary series. I am such a historian of professional wrestling that I love hearing stories of things that maybe you never knew happened. Like, I didn't know exactly what happened to Bruiser Brody. All I knew is that he was stabbed, right? There were a lot of details as far as the Montreal Screwjob that I didn't know about. And there's a series on Vice that's called Dark Side of the Ring, and it's one of the best documentary series I have watched in a very long time. They touched on the relationship between Macho Man Randy Savage, Miss Elizabeth, as I said, Bruiser Brody, the Montreal Screwjob, and just recently they did the Von Erich family. One fact I did not know, and not a lot of people knew, was that the Texas Tornado, Kerry Von Erich, actually wrestled in wrestling with one foot. That's right. One of his right foot, I believe, was amputated after a motorcycle accident, and he didn't tell anybody. That's right. He signed to the WWE wrestling with a prosthetic foot inside of his boot, which is just absolutely crazy to even think about, and crazy to fathom that it worked, because the Texas Tornado was one of my favorite wrestlers back in the day. Love the Von Erichs. They're legends of the ring, a legendary family, just like the Anoa'i family, just like the Hart family. Legendary wrestling families. So, if you get a chance, check that out. It's on Vice. It's called Dark Side of the Ring. You do not want to miss these. They're excellent. They're great. I love them. And that, my friends, is all for this week's edition of Eddie Valiant's Hot Take. I hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at MRXPunchout. Again, MRXPunchout. That is my Twitter handle. And as always, follow 5-Star Wrestling Podcast. Catch us on Twitter at the #5_Star Podcast. I will see you guys next week.